Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to kick off this presentation with a focus on a very important and timely case study. Today, we'll explore why this news case is a must-learn for students, faculty, and industry stakeholders alike. We'll see how it highlights the real-world interplay of macroeconomics, supply chain strategy, pricing decisions, and operational finance, core concepts that influence business choices, especially in import-dependent sectors. This case specifically shows how currency volatility directly impacts consumer prices across various sectors like white goods, cosmetics, and automobiles in India. We'll be discussing some recent developments, including the rupee's depreciation and subsequent price hikes, which are very relevant today. So, let's dive in and understand what makes this case so critical for our learning and decision-making. Today, I want to highlight that we're expecting price increases across all categories in the coming months. This isn't limited to just one area. It's a broad trend that will impact many sectors. For example, automobiles and electric vehicles are likely to see higher costs, and the same goes for cosmetics and personal care products. Even white goods like air conditioners, refrigerators, and other appliances are anticipated to become more expensive. These increases are influenced by several factors, but a key one is currency volatility. India imports 60 to 70% of the components needed in these critical sectors, which makes our profitability highly sensitive to currency fluctuations. Recently, we've seen the Indian rupee weaken significantly against major currencies, especially the US dollar. This sharp decline in the currency value is directly affecting costs and margins. So, what's happening with the rupee? It's experiencing a crisis of sorts, with rapid depreciation that impacts our import costs and overall economic stability. Understanding this currency situation is crucial because it underpins many of the pressures and price movements we're likely to face in the near term. In essence, the combination of rising prices across sectors and the weakening rupee creates a challenging environment for businesses and consumers alike. And it's important we stay alert to these developments as we move forward. Let's take a closer look at some of the key forces behind the rupee's recent weakness. First, when foreign portfolio investors, or FPIs, exit from Indian equities, it reduces the dollar supply in our domestic markets. This means there's less foreign currency coming in, which can put pressure on our currency. Next, rising import costs are a significant factor. As the prices of imported goods go up, there's a persistent demand for foreign currency to pay for these imports. This increased demand for dollars, for example, can weaken the rupee over time. Uncertainty in global markets also plays a role. When investors feel unsure or risk-averse, they tend to pull back from risky assets, leading to what's called a risk-off sentiment. This often results in capital flowing out of emerging markets like India, further impacting our currency. Additionally, policies from the Federal Reserve, especially those related to interest rates, make the dollar more attractive to investors. As the US dollar strengthens, it puts additional pressure on emerging market currencies, including the rupee. Finally, our energy imports, particularly crude oil, significantly drain our forex reserves. Higher energy prices mean more dollars are needed to pay for oil, which weakens the rupee's purchasing power. All these factors combined, foreign outflows, import costs, global market sentiment, US monetary policy, and energy prices, are collectively driving the rupee's weakness. They highlight how interconnected the global financial system is and how external forces influence our local currency. Let's take a closer look at what's happening across various industries. Companies are reporting that their cost pressure levels are now unsustainable. This means they are feeling intense financial strain, which is driving an urgent need to adjust their pricing strategies and rethink their overall approach. For example, in the cosmetics industry, a significant portion of their ingredients, between 40 and 80%, are sourced from abroad. This reliance on imported ingredients makes them vulnerable to fluctuations in international markets and supply chain disruptions. Similarly, in the white goods sector, there's a reliance on foreign components, with import dependency ranging from 60 to 70%. This isn't just limited to appliances. It also affects sectors like cosmetics and automotive, where the dependency on imported parts and materials is quite high. Adding to this challenge, raw material costs have increased by around 8 to 10%. When you combine rising raw material costs with high import dependencies, it's clear why cost pressures are mounting across these sectors. These mounting pressures highlight the critical need for companies to act quickly, whether through pricing adjustments or strategic shifts, to maintain their competitiveness in an increasingly complex environment. As the rupee depreciates, every imported ingredient we rely on becomes noticeably more expensive. This shift forces brands like ours to rethink both product formulations and pricing structures to stay competitive. When it comes to preservatives and formulations, we often source specialty chemicals from abroad, which now cost more than before. The same applies to premium packaging components that help differentiate our products on the shelves. Active chemicals from specialized suppliers, fragrances from Europe and the Middle East, these are all imported and their costs are rising sharply. This situation puts severe margin pressure on cosmetics companies, especially those heavily dependent on imports. In essence, we're caught in an import-heavy value chain, where the costs of raw materials and packaging are directly impacted by currency fluctuations. Understanding this dynamic is crucial as we navigate the challenges faced by the beauty and FMCG sectors, which are being pushed into a difficult crossfire, balancing quality, innovation, and profitability in a changing economic landscape. Let's talk about the inflationary ripple effect and how it impacts us all. When currency depreciation occurs, it tends to drive up input costs for businesses. This means the cost of raw materials, transportation, and other essentials go higher. As a result, companies often pass these costs on to consumers through higher prices. This process reduces our overall purchasing power, making it more expensive to buy the same goods and services. Now, in response to these pressures, many companies are turning to shrinkflation. This involves reducing pack sizes or using alternative materials, basically giving us less product for the same or even higher prices. You might notice smaller packs on your shelves or companies cutting back on promotions to protect their margins. Fewer discounts and promotional offers are also part of this strategy, which can make shopping feel less rewarding. We can expect revised pricing across various categories in the upcoming months, likely in Q4 and early next year. And yes, price hikes are definitely on the horizon. All these changes will impact your wallet directly, so it's important to stay aware of these trends as they develop. Ultimately, understanding this ripple effect helps us better anticipate how inflation is shaping the market and our everyday expenses. Now, let's look at some of the key measures we're implementing to offset rising costs through energy-saving initiatives. First, supply chain optimization initiatives are critical. This involves renegotiating contracts with our existing vendors to secure better terms and exploring local suppliers for import substitution, which can reduce lead times and costs. Next, operational efficiency plays a vital role. By streamlining our processes and eliminating waste, we can lower our overall expenses. Moving on to supply chain diversification, this is about reducing our dependency on a limited number of suppliers or regions. Diversifying our supply sources helps us mitigate risks and adapt more flexibly to market changes. However, a significant challenge we're facing is the increased cost of hedging due to market volatility. Hedging has become more expensive, which impacts our risk management strategies. To address this, we're reassessing our hedging coverage, adjusting the tenor, and exploring more cost-effective structures. All of these initiatives are part of our broader corporate response strategies. They're designed to make us more resilient and cost-efficient in a volatile environment, aligning with our overall goal of maintaining stability and growth despite external pressures. Let's take a closer look at sector-wise vulnerability analysis. Here, we break down the vulnerabilities across different sectors to understand where the biggest risks lie. This approach helps us identify specific weaknesses unique to each sector, whether it's finance, healthcare, manufacturing, or others. By analyzing vulnerabilities sector by sector, we can tailor our security measures more effectively, ensuring that each area gets the attention it needs. This detailed perspective is crucial because it highlights that vulnerabilities aren't one-size-fits-all. They vary depending on the sector's structure and operations. Connecting this to our overall theme, understanding these sector-specific risks allows us to develop targeted strategies that strengthen our defenses across the entire landscape. Now, let's look at some key strategies for building operational resilience. First, rethinking our long-term sourcing strategy is crucial. By diversifying suppliers and considering import substitution opportunities, we can reduce vulnerability and enhance stability. Currency risk is also a major factor. Viewing it as a competitive differentiator allows us to better manage fluctuations and protect margins. Moving on to strategic management, supplier diversification becomes imperative, not just for risk mitigation, but also for flexibility. Additionally, exploring import substitution can help us lessen dependency on volatile markets. The overall global supply chain remains vulnerable, so proactive planning is essential. In terms of supply chain management itself, tactics like pack size optimization can lead to cost savings and efficiency. We also need to differentiate between value engineering, finding cost-effective alternatives, and maintaining a premium positioning that appeals to our target customers. Managing price hikes carefully is vital. We want to pass costs through without losing customer loyalty. From a marketing perspective, implementing effective cost pass-through mechanisms ensures we can sustain profitability. Moreover, having a well-defined corporate hedging strategy becomes increasingly important in volatile currency environments, especially when exchange rate depreciation can lead to imported inflation. Finally, in our MBA classroom session, we identified 4 critical learnings that tie all these points together, highlighting the importance of agility, strategic foresight, risk management, and adaptability in today's complex economic landscape. All these elements connect back to our overarching goal, building a resilient, competitive business in a challenging environment. The Rupee depreciation case really highlights how global macroeconomic forces can have a ripple effect through our supply chains, corporate strategies, and ultimately impact consumers' wallets. It's a crucial lesson for understanding how modern business dynamics operate in a connected world. When the currency weakens, we can expect higher prices and fewer promotions, especially in sectors like white goods, cosmetics, and automobiles. From the consumer's perspective, this means they'll feel the pinch in their everyday spending. Companies, on the other hand, need to carefully balance their pricing power, operational efficiency, and the need to localize their supply chains to stay competitive. This currency volatility isn't just a financial issue. It translates directly into inflation, which affects millions of Indian consumers daily. It's a strategic challenge that companies must navigate to sustain growth and keep their customers engaged. So the key takeaway here is understanding how these macro impacts, like currency fluctuations, are not isolated. They cascade through the economy, influencing everything from business strategies to individual buying power. Recognizing this interconnectedness is essential for anyone looking to grasp the complexities of today's business environment.